Hi, this is Dana. On this channel, I speak about spiritual warfare. I have another channel on which I speak about astrology and a Facebook page with prophetic writing, and you find that in the description box below. In this video, God has guided me to speak about bondage breaking, but focused on claims made on you. Particularly, God guided me to speak, well, I thought actually until this very moment that He guided me to speak about coupled relations and claims in coupled relations. But now God is just saying to me that just speak about claims in general. Because also, there are other type of claims whereby your parents can claim you or other individuals from your family can claim you. There are also very known situations, publicly known, with individuals who have been claimed, like Britney Spears, by their parents, namely making fake accusations or maybe legitimate accusations, depends from case to case, of the individual doing drugs or being irresponsible. So then they claim this kind of, I don't know how you say this in English, I forgot to check, tutorship. Basically, they just take rights overseeing your life, saying that you're irresponsible. They do this. This is a type of claim which is more often than you would imagine created by different individuals in your life, sometimes mostly by family members. But they do this in order to claim rights over uh, your money, your rights, your gifts, and to make decisions in your name and so on. And it's unbeknownst to you. Everything, when we talk about bondage, to up to certain extent, it's unbeknownst to you. At some point, because you have to break it, God will show it to you somehow. Will find a way to show it to you. But for a long time, God, and I learned this from my own experience, God will not tell you from the beginning. And God has said to me this because I was very frustrated. Why didn't you tell me they're doing this behind my back and so on and so on? And God said, because we needed to allow them to expose themselves, to do so much harm, and to create so much evidence, so they will expose themselves when you start fighting. Because if I would have told you ahead of time, because they've done this in previous lifetimes as well. But if I would have told you ahead of time and you had, they wouldn't have done anything at that point or not enough. They always are extremely experienced and well versed in tricking. They will say, for example, here in my own house, they have sent huge attacks at me. I thought I would die one of these days because I had such huge attacks on my heart chakra. And basically they said, oh, but we just sent Reiki to her because we thought she looks a little bit pale and maybe she doesn't feel well. But those were negative energy attacks, or they also send a lot of attacks by altar magic. And I proved in a court of law that in astral that they have done this. And they said, oh, but it was an altar, we were praying for her well-being. What the fuck you mean? You don't do that. But anyhow, this is what I mean. It is very tricky. Throughout time, I had huge frustrations because God would show to me the stupid shit they say, you know, and it's very frustrating because it's not true, because you felt the attack and you just find it extremely frustrating. But I did write a few prophetic writings on this topic, and every time God has a say which is using when I express my frustrations in these circumstances. And he says it takes the foolish things of the world to confine the wisest. Namely, you have to put up with this shit because this is how it works. And this is how they got away. Keep in mind, they got away many lifetimes with this. But you got to put up with it and find a different way to confront these arguments and situations. and to frame them and expose them in such a way so they cannot trick other people anymore, because overall goal for you is much more important than the frustration you live in these very moments when they do this, right? So anyhow, so family equally, parents, and they can make contracts on you. And for example, I'll give you an example. I said in another video, I told the story of that woman who looked for me, and she was a biological mother. And throughout my spiritual journey, I did bondage breaking. In this regard, I met, God guided me to go and meet certain women who actually were different embodiments of the same woman. And I learned that basically what she did were contracts on me specifically, and this is what God asked me, explain what contracts mean, because people don't understand. Contract means that she decided she needs more money, so then she negotiated with different individuals, and whoever paid more, she forced me to marry that individual, and she gained money in exchange for this. That's a contract. This is a contract. And when I say me, I mean me, the embodiment that for which I'm carrying out bondage breaking, right? Many times I remind you what I said in the previous video. Many times it's not necessarily about you personally, but you are embodying that individual who against whom this was done, and you must break that bondage. Otherwise, you keep the embodiment, so you pick up the bondage if you don't break it. So this is not a joke that we do an embodiment. We try our best. If we don't succeed in bondage breaking, then that's okay. No, it's not okay, because then if you accepted the embodiment and that was done on you, then if you don't break the bondage, then that becomes your bondage. So keep in mind, this is really serious. Okay, so this is a contract. Another type of contract that God has shown to me, and I broke these bondages. Many type of contracts that she has done, and many type of karma and dark attachments that she brought into the lineage, because as I said, it was a cross lineage. It was two different lineages, and it was crossbreed couple, basically. So she was not my soul lineage, she was just my biological lineage. One of the lineages from my biological birth at that point in time. So obviously my soul lineage was on the side of the father. But anyhow, the point is, she did this. She said she's too young, she's too irresponsible, she's too immature, she's too that. I have to make decisions for her. I have to decide who she marries. I have to decide what I will do with the fortune, the money, the properties which she receives, and so on. So she stole a lot, basically. Just plain simple. She stole a lot. And then she pushed me into different marriages. God showed me once in Asia, once in Greece, another one in... There are many things which she has done, including witchcraft and African witchcraft. In fact, she brought some African priests to do some witchcraft on me, or the embodiment which I was taking for this. What else? There is so much. I cannot explain to you how much bondage I broke because of this woman. Then she... so she did this. And then I created some events for spirituality, and she sold the rights to my intellectual property, the rights to my work, to certain individuals to develop businesses. She took percentages from those businesses, and in that lifetime she didn't say anything, and she didn't give me any money. and literally, basically, she just spent all of this money. So there are many. These are contracts. All of these are contracts, negotiations, selling my rights, speaking in my name, creating a bondage on me, namely saying, because she was part of a convent. She was in a relationship with one of the individuals who was running a convent. So because of this, she created all of this on the embodiment for which I was breaking bondage. Okay, so this is an example of contract. I'll give you another example of contracts. The spouse or your lover or whatever you want to call him or her, particularly the men, because we are in a patriarchal society in 3D, right? And this is why God has guided for women to claim matriarchate. They assume rights over your rights. They say the union rights, because every couple has union rights, I speak for the union rights because I'm the man in the house, right? And they make contracts then on the union rights, namely that, for example, God will give you as union, for example, career rights. Like you can be, for example, both of you can work together and can create something. Either that you can be medicine man with medicine woman, or that you can be spiritual leaders and you can teach, or God usually one of the gift refers to your career, and God is matching in such a way so the two of you can work together, so you can actually bring your contribution, spiritually speaking, so you can actually through your work, so you can actually advance spiritually, right? And upgrade in ranking and so on and so on. And he sells that. This happened to me in this lifetime, my ex-husband. So he says, well, she has rights to be minister. No, I will sell these rights. She doesn't need to be minister. I decide she needs to stay here and just mop the floor or just be a secretary or just be nothing. So she sells contracts. Basically, they make a declaration, either that they make a simple declaration if they have common sense, and they only say, I give up the rights of my spouse to be in this and that position in exchange for a certain amount of money or something that that individual requests in exchange. So there's always an exchange. Many times it's just a promotion of that individual within that convent or that organization to which he sells contracts, right? Sometimes they sell direct contracts directly to specific political people or business leaders who need specific rights for them to boost their business or stuff like this. And so on and so forth. You have different rights in terms of, for example, in terms of childbirth. You have rights to bring on earth a specific child which has a specific purpose, and he sells the right, that right. I decided we don't need a child. I sell the rights of my child, of having this child, to so and so, because having that child automatically brings a lot of abundance, elevation, and so on and so forth for the child, but also for the parents who raised that child. Okay, so that's another contract, and in exchange he requests this. For example, God has recently showed me that my ex-husband did this, and I finally understood why when we were in USA and I was trying to get back home to have a child, because home meant that I could take a vacation for raising the child, which was not possible for me while I was in a posting abroad, of course. And he instead said, no, have the child here, and we give the child to this boss of ours who has a nanny, and the nanny will take care of the child. For me, it was extremely peculiar. Why would you give your newborn child so it's very young, that's a very, very young child, to give him away to be raised by a nanny when you should actually feed him, breastfeed him at that point in time, you know? So what the fuck you mean that I go back to work, I don't breastfeed my child, I send him to somebody else's house to be raised by a nanny who already has two other kids in her responsibility, so she doesn't have time for a newborn to care for him. Not to mention that she's not even capable of, but just, you know, and then I understood because he already sold ahead of time the rights, my rights of motherhood. He said, you know, she's in a couple with me. I decide as a man, we don't need to have a child. So she sold my motherhood rights to a certain convent, a certain individuals, and so on. So this is why finally, after what, more than 22 years, finally I got to understand why. Because all my life it's sort of stayed with me this question: why would he do such a thing? Why would he say this? Because I'm pretty sure it's impossible. Only if you're stupid, you don't understand that you're gonna annoy me and insult me if you say this to me. But then I understood now that he already had a contract on my child. So of course he said this because he was constrained by the contract he signed, you know. Anyhow, so this is a contract, another contract. So they can sell anything from your life. They check on your natal chart and they from astrology, and they understand in tarot readings and so on and so forth, and they know what rights you have better than you do, much earlier than you find out, you know. And then they start making these contracts. I explained in another video, if you take your natal chart, your astrological natal chart, you and you go through it, in each house you have people who have contracts over that right and that gift which is supposed to come to you from the divine realm. I have there were houses in my natal chart in which God showed me there were 12 individuals which had contracts only on that house. And imagine that there are 12 houses. Imagine how many people, and all of these individuals feed from you. They have demons and darkness attached to them, which is feeding from you. So these are the contracts, because God showed to me that people don't understand what are contracts. So explain more clearly what are contracts. This is when then there's another one. Sometimes you're not, because you see, this is the purpose why these narcissistic relations came about. And as I said in another video, these people are taught to behave this way. You would imagine that they are sick in their mind, but actually they are taught how to be narcissistic to you. And this is for a very simple reason, because they get to claim you, but they do not take the responsibility of you. The responsibility of you means that if he's in a couple with you, he has to protect you. Otherwise, he will answer to God if he doesn't protect you. Everyone who claimed you and never protected you and only used your rights, God will punish them. But if they are not narcissistic, in their mind, they think, you know, they trick God. And they say, I told you from the beginning we have an open relation. I did not assume responsibility of you. Therefore, I cannot be held accountable for anyone doing anything to you. So then they feel free to make all these contracts. And this goes in many relations. I guess this is what I needed to say. So these are the narcissistic relations. And the promises. God keeps showing to me, talk about promises. And what they do, they make contracts. I was shocked to see this. So they make contracts on your rights. But many times, especially after a certain time in ascension, God decided he will not give to anyone rights in 3D anymore. Meaning in material form. Until people start breaking bondages, because the darkness got too strong. So what do you think they did? They started making promises. For example, if they want to block you, I'll give you an example. If they want to block you, they initiate or just make a fake claim at you. Even I told you, there are people whom I never met and they claimed me. And they make promises on your future income. She makes this business. I make promise this and this amount from her profit next year. Okay, so this is a contract. In exchange for that, I request a house or a land or a car or whatever, a job or promotion in my job or whatever, or promotion within the convent or something. And this way they blocked you, because all income that you're supposed to be making through that business goes to them. They use the banks in this system. They use the bank account you have in this system. And essentially what they do is they steal from you before you even get. Do you understand how sick-minded this is? They steal from you something you didn't even get from God. Therefore, you can work tirelessly and you don't earn any money, and you ask yourself, why am I blocked? Why don't I receive money? You do receive money. God sent you money. The divine realm sent you money, but they took it from you ahead of time before you even got the chance to get it. Do you see? I encountered this and I learned about this first time in my spiritual journey when someone was sending money to my account constantly, kept sending money, because money, they're first sent in astral, and then when they're registered as your right for material existence, they come into fruition in material existence. And my money were disappearing before coming into fruition in material existence. Constantly. And nobody could explain to me why. So I learned about this. God showed me this. That they made promises ahead of time. Since before you left Romania, they made so many promises on your money that essentially you're going to have to work now, I don't know how many years, to actually get to receive income, So this way they block you and they steal money from you even before you do anything in this regard. So this is another way of making contracts. I gave you another example, yeah? So basically, clearly, I upset somebody by saying all this, but that's okay, because I'm not here to please them. Essentially, a claim is an individual who claims you. It can be romantic interest. He can claim you in romantic terms, but not necessarily. It can be your spouse, but if you're not married, it doesn't mean that you cannot be claimed by others who can claim that they are in a relationship with you. Even if you are married, it doesn't mean you don't get claimed by others. Others might claim you, but if you're married, normally your husband should know. Either they do it with his accord and he has signed a contract and allowed them to claim you, or he actually sold them access to you by himself. As I said in another video, there are situations in which your spouse will sign a blank contract. Like, I give access to my family or to my spouse, and they don't even enter into a negotiation about what. They will just give full access to you. And then the convent decides what type of rights they will take, how they will harvest energy, and so on and so forth. So there are many ways, types of contracts. To be honest, I didn't even put my mind to it to discover all of them yet. I only discovered the ones which I encountered in bondage breaking or in the period of time when I did readings, because I had initially, when I was still learning to do diagnosis of energy, I had a period in which God guided me to do readings, which I loved, actually, to be honest. At that point in time, I thought it's very beautiful because you have instant confirmation, during readings. When you do a reading to someone, first of all, that you help them, and it's a very nice feeling. Second of all, you have instant confirmation. If I say this and this happened in your life and instantly that person confirms it's true, then you have already instant confirmation from a 3D individual, which is essentially witness the miracle which is happening in your life, namely that God is talking to you, that a deity from a divine realm is talking to you and sharing information with you, and so on. So that's very beautiful to share, and so on. Anyhow, moving on, because that ended a long time ago for me. So a man gets to claim you. So many men can claim you, actually. You should, and I highly encourage everyone, check in the divine realm how many claims you have on you, from whom, and how they are formulated. Literally, I'm not kidding, this is very serious. You need to understand all of this will be like a map for your bondage breaking effort. So you will understand what is going on. There are parents who can sign contracts on you, as I said, for marriage or even for a job. There are parents who will go, for example, this woman, I had career opportunities, as I said, and she said, no, she's not good at this. Or in our family, we don't agree with this kind of career. I sell this career to somebody else. Everything, all of this was shown to me. So you can check, as I'm very sure that many of this has happened to you. You just don't know it, like I didn't know it at the time, and so you will see that they sold contracts on each and every single aspect of your life, on each and every single right that you had from the divine realm. Everything that didn't come to fruition, but also, creating this map, it will be very beneficial to you for a simple reason, because you will be amazed to see what was God's plan with you. You so far only know what you achieved. And many times, many of us have achieved what we achieved against some kind of antagonism from parents, from neighbors, from colleagues, from relatives, from everyone, So this, for me, it was a shock in a positive way. In the sense, was like I was mesmerized. I couldn't speak for a while. I just said, I never knew that you had all these plans for me. We always spoke, but you never told me all of this. So it will be, it will be sort of, you will have a total image of yourself, and you will have to think about your path in a totally different terms. It's a, God says that it's a paradigm shifting in everybody's life when they do this. So if God guided me to speak about this, it means it's the right time for paradigm shifting in many people's lives, particularly those who listen to my videos. So it's a very special moment. So I highly recommend to everyone to do this. Even if you are not fully convinced of everything else that I keep saying in bondage breaking and so on, at least do this, because this will shed light for you in what a beautiful relation you actually have with God, for many individuals, actually unbeknownst to you, and how much love you have from God. Anyhow, okay, so you have all these people who claim you without you even knowing. Many of them haven't even come to say hello. You have never met many of them. I told you, when I started doing this consciously in 2018, God showed me I had 48 or 49 individuals who made claims on me. And I was like, who the fuck are these people? Where are they from? Many of them were married. And actually, God has shown to me that their spouses knew and agreed with this, because they wanted my rights. They wanted to be me. They wanted to be, oh my God. Anyhow, when this happens, usually you have to start breaking the bondage, of course, and claiming back everything that you have. You have to claim justice, judgment, and punishment. One way God deals with this, particularly those who claimed you without even coming to meet you. So those individuals, especially as a woman, But nowadays also I saw that men are in this mixed relation, so maybe it's also valid for them. So there are men who claim you, and you never meet them. You never meet them in person. You never speak to them, nowhere, you know. And of course they don't assume any responsibility. They only do this because they signed a contract, and maybe some of them paid for that contract, you know. Maybe your spouse or your family sold contract on you, or a convent gave them the right, because if your spouse sells all these contracts to the convent, the convent distributes all those rights to other people. They purchase these rights of yours in order to give them to somebody else. You must understand this, of course. Sometimes, if you have high rights, very important rights, they will sell them to business associations or business owners, to corporations, to banks, or to institutions. And they will create budget for those entities from your divine rights and so on. So they do not assume any responsibility, because for them it's very easy. I paid money, I received what I requested. What the fuck you mean? I'm not gonna take care of this woman. I don't even know her, right? And I don't want to know her because I don't want anyone to find out what I did. That's their purpose. That's their thinking. So what God has done throughout my spiritual fighting with this kind of people, God will tell me, but will not tell me about the bondage somebody created. God would just tell me, go and talk to this person. And many times it's very peculiar to me, because I'm like, what to say? And God says, just go talk to them. And it's very weird, because I'm like, okay, I can do this, but what's the purpose? Why I do this? And then later on, I find out that God took me to that individual because that individual made claims on me, which sent specific type of darkness, which was trying to destroy me. So I was carrying a spiritual fighting against a demonic force, which was sent to me as a consequence of a contract which was signed on me by different individuals, ex-spouses, men who claimed me but never been with me, parents, all sorts of boss at the office, and so on and so forth. Many individuals who claimed rights, and they made contracts on me, and in exchange they sent different kind of demons to me. And I was fighting, and that fight was draining me pointlessly, because as long as there is a bondage, there is a contract on you, that will not end. You need to revoke the contract. This is very important for you to understand. The breaking of the bondage, this is it. You need to break the contract which was created on you. You need to find out who created it and to break the contract, because otherwise that darkness will come after you endlessly. Even if you break that darkness and you send it back, next day will come back again. Why? Because it's a contract. As long as the contract is valid, you don't prove that that contract was illegal, you cannot get rid of that. You can get rid of temporarily. I explained this. In healing, you can only heal temporarily. To heal deeply, you need to do bondage breaking. That means you need to revoke the contracts which were created on you. And of course, you need to do affirmations and so on in this situation, but that's not enough. You need to do spiritual fighting both in terms of fighting that darkness, but most importantly, you have to break that contract, which is a legal matter in an astral court and in a 3D court as well. So this is what the bondage of breaking means, basically. And as I said, God will make me go to these individuals. And now I'm even worried. When God says, go to talk to someone, I'm like, no, did they make contracts on me? Why you send me? Because this is my experience. Every time when he told me to go talk to someone, I went, without any concern, very relaxed, because I didn't know those people, so it was easy to just make an excuse to have a, pointless protocolar dialogue with just basic issues day to day. But then he would reveal to me essentially what he does. He sends you to them because this is their last chance to do right by you and revoke that contract. And let me tell you something. For those stupid idiots who do contracts on innocent people, I have seen God doing this with other people, and I have seen God hiding that individual up till the last very minute. And if that individual broke the contract and paid back the one from whom he stole and did right by that individual, God wouldn't reveal what he did. God will protect that individual. So you must know this. All of these creeps who do these contracts, I have seen this. God is trying to help everyone to break the bondage. But you must do redemption. Redemption means the individual who done contract on you, because this is also, God showed me that this is also a rule of astral and also a rule of their convents. Namely that if the victim understands what is being done, they must stop and they must make a deal with that person. Namely that they must give back what they stole. They must find a way to appease you. Yeah, they must find a way to appease you, to